Hello everyone, it's Schematic Med. In today's video, we will be discussing one of the most infamous diseases in human history, the plague. From ancient times to modern science, this disease has had a profound impact on humanity, reshaping societies and driving scientific innovation. We will explore its history, the progression of medical knowledge, and the fascinating yet grim events that unfolded with each outbreak. Lots of information about the plague's history is well documented, so let's take a closer look at how it began and what we now know about the disease itself. The plague's earliest documented appearance occurred during the reign of the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I, around the mid-6th century. Known as the Justinian plague, this pandemic first broke out in 541 AD and continued to ravage the Eastern Roman Empire for decades. It's believed to have originated in the regions of the Central Asia, spreading through trade routes, particularly the Silk Road, and infecting Europe, North Africa, and parts of the Middle East. The epidemic claimed an estimated 25 million lives over the course of several waves, and it severely weakened the Byzantine Empire. Though the people at the time had no understanding of how the disease was transmitted, they attributed the outbreak to bad air, what we now refer to as miasma theory, which was believed to cause illness through toxic vapors emanating from the earth. While the exact cause remained unknown, it's clear that the consequences of the plague extended beyond just the loss of life. It destabilized the empire politically and economically, leading to a series of military and territorial losses. The impact of the Justinian plague on Europe and world history cannot be understated, as it marked the beginning of the centuries-long struggle with the disease. Fast forward to the 14th century, and the world was once again struck by a wave of plague, this time known as the Black Death. Beginning in 1347, the Black Death spread rapidly across Europe, Asia, and North Africa. Its arrival in Europe via merchant ships arriving from the Black Sea marked the start of one of the most catastrophic pandemics the world has ever seen. Over the course of just 4 years, between 1347 and 1351, the Black Death killed an estimated 25 to 30 million people in Europe alone, roughly one-third of the population. The disease spread with alarming speed, especially through the newly established trade routes, where rats infected with fleas carrying the Yersinia pestis bacteria spread the plague from Asia to Europe. The fleas would jump onto rats and humans, transferring the bacteria into the bloodstream, causing a host of symptoms. Let's now focus on the medical science behind the plague. The plague is caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, which is primarily transmitted to humans through the bite of an infected flea. Once the bacteria enter the body, they travel to the lymphatic system, where they cause the characteristic buboes, painful, swollen lymph nodes that are most commonly found in the groin, armpit, or neck. This form of the disease is called the bubonic plague. The onset of the disease is swift and harsh. High fever, chills, fatigue, and severe body aches are often the first symptoms. Soon, painful swelling appears in the lymph nodes, turning them into the well-known buboes. If left untreated, the bacteria can spread into the bloodstream, resulting in septicemic plague, which can cause septic shock, organ failure, and death. The pneumonic plague is another dangerous form of the disease, which affects the lungs. This variant of the plague can be transmitted through airborne droplets, making it highly contagious. Pneumonic plague symptoms include difficulty breathing, chest pain, and a productive cough that may contain blood. If not treated, it can quickly result in respiratory failure. You may have encountered the iconic image of the plague doctor in a mask with a long beak. This peculiar appearance is one of the most enduring symbols of the Black Death. The mask was thought to protect the doctors from the bad air or miasma, which at the time was believed to be the cause of the plague. The beak was often filled with aromatic herbs like lavender, rose petals, and spices, and sometimes even vinegar-soaked cloths, to purify the air before it could enter the doctor's lungs. While the plague doctors were among the few willing to treat plague victims, their efforts were largely ineffective because they lacked an understanding of disease transmission. In fact, the plague was spread not by the air but through infected fleas, which doctors had no knowledge of at the time. The doctors also carried a long staff or pole to maintain distance between themselves and the infected, which was a precaution against the perceived contagious nature of the disease. Although these doctors are often remembered in folklore and imagery, their actual role in treating the plague was minimal, as they were unable to combat the disease due to the lack of effective treatments or a proper understanding of the bacterium. Rats have been associated with the spread of the plague, and during the Black Death they were blamed for carrying the infected fleas that spread Yersinia pestis. However, another significant part of the story involves cats. During the plague, many Europeans believed that cats were involved in witchcraft, and as a result, they were persecuted and killed in large numbers. Ironically, by killing cats, people contributed to the spread of the disease. As the cat population declined, the number of rats increased, and with more rats came more fleas, which further accelerated the plague's spread. This illustrates how human actions based on superstition and fear can have unintended consequences. As the Black Death spread across Europe, authorities began to implement early forms of quarantine to curb the spread of the disease. Ships suspected of carrying plague were kept in harbor for 40 days, a practice known as quarantine. The term quarantine comes from the Italian word quaranta, meaning 40. Although the authorities did not understand the microbiological mechanisms behind disease transmission, their measures to isolate the infected did help slow the plague's spread. These early quarantine efforts were among the first recorded public health measures, and they laid the groundwork for modern practices of controlling infectious diseases. However, the lack of effective treatments like antibiotics meant that quarantine alone was not enough to prevent the vast loss of life during the pandemic of the pest. It wasn't until the late 19th century that the true cause of the plague was identified. The Swiss-French bacteriologist Alexander Yersin discovered Yersinia pestis as the causative agent of the disease in 1894. His work led to a better understanding of how bacterial infections could spread and how they could be controlled, which was a breakthrough in the field of microbiology and epidemiology. This discovery, combined with the development of antibiotics like streptomycin in the 20th century, drastically reduced the threat of plague, allowing for effective treatments and saving countless lives. Today, the plague is no longer the global killer it once was, but it still appears occasionally in some remote regions, like parts of Africa or Asia. Modern medicine, however, has made it highly treatable if caught early. The plague serves as a reminder of how a single pathogen can change the course of history. It drove advancements in medicine, public health, and epidemiology, and it prompted innovations that saved countless lives. Today we live in a world where the plague is no longer a threat, thanks to scientific progress and a deeper understanding of infectious diseases. But the story of plague reminds us of the importance of preparedness, of understanding disease transmission, and of the profound impact that pandemics can have on societies, economies, and cultures. Thank you for joining Schematic Med in this exploration of the history and science behind one of the world's most deadly diseases. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others who might find it valuable.